And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. I am your pal Dan L. This is my channel. And guess who's going to be transgender 24 months from now? Cal L. But not just Cal L. 24 months from now, every legacy hero from the 20th century will either be gay, a woman, or transgender. Is that what their creators wanted them to be? I doubt it. Anyway, so let's get on to today's episode. It's called Country Club Republicans. Let me give you some names of who I might be talking about. Actually, pretty much all the Republicans, but let me give you some specific people who are a big problem. Cheney, Fitzpatrick, Gonzalez, Katko, Kinzinger, Mace, Maher, it's Meijer, Major, I don't know, Upton, and Herrera Butler. Last name is Beutler. So those nine people were elected to Congress as Republicans, but whenever the Democrats need someone to help them destroy other Republicans, those nine are the first ones to raise their hand. Oh, we'll help you. What, the Democrats need help either imprisoning or expelling Republicans from Washington D.C. We'll help you. Why? Because they're not. Most Republicans are. Well, that's why today's episode is called Country Club Republicans. We're going to talk about that. First, though, I'm going to read you a little bit from the Gateway Pundit. The Gateway Pundit's a good website. They can be critical of Republicans. They'll never be critical of the right. They'll just be critical of Republicans. But today, they have something good to say about the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water. You know how my throat goes. My throat's always. I've got my Luden's cough drop in case we need it. So this is from an article on the Gateway Pundit. The name of the article is Bravo GOP reps Jordan Johnson, Stube, Biggs, Gomert, Sparts, Massey, Gates, Chabot, McClintock, and Ken Buck destroy Attorney General Merrick Garland. Anyway, so I'm going to read you a little bit from the article. Republican lawmakers totally represented today at the House Judiciary Committee hearing. House GOP members showed up, were prepared, organized, focused on separate issues, and completely destroyed the corrupt Attorney General of the United States. Anyway, we're going to talk about this then. I don't consider this to be a destruction of the Attorney General. If you impeached him or impeached his boss, that'd be a destruction. The GOP lawmakers blasted Attorney General Merrick Garland and the criminal actions of the current regime, which they should just call it the criminal actions of the Chinese regime. Garland, who was unimpressive and a terrible witness, dim and clumsy, had no answers to their many questions on the dire state of the Department of Injustice. Okay, there's a good one. The Department of Injustice. See, this is what I like from the Gateway Pundit. This is because this is objective reality. It's not the Department of Justice. It's the Department of Corruption, the Department of Injustice, the Department of Anti-Constitutionality. But anyway, so Representative Jim Jordan. He put Garland in a half Nelson and grilled the AG on the alleged uptick in threats at school board meetings. Garland had no answer. Um, so, Jordan, when did you first review the data showing this so called disturbing uptick in violence directed against school boards? Merrick Garland. So, I read the letter and we have been seeing over time. So, then Jordan interrupts. So, you read the letter. That's your source? Of course, that's his source. He got a letter from school boards asking the Department of Justice to destroy parents who are trying to protect their children. Representative Andy Biggs from Arizona questioned AG Garland on the illegal border crossers. 400,000 this month. Garland had no answer. Andy Biggs, have you missed a memorandum directing prosecution of the 1.3 million illegal border crossings? No. That's what AG Garland said. No. Andy Biggs, you've managed to issue a memorandum about parents showing up at school boards. Why can't you issue one regarding illegal border crossings? Representative Victoria Sparts, who grew up in the Soviet Union, warned lawmakers on the FBI's current resemblance to the Soviet KGB. Garland had no answer. This is Victoria. As someone who grew up in the USSR, that's Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, I'm disturbed that FBI is starting to resemble KGB, intimidation, surveillance, suppression of dissent. AG Garland also didn't firmly reassure us that they will keep Americans safe in light of the border and Afghanistan crisis. Home Run King. Representative Greg Steube from Florida grilled Garland on the insurrection at the Interior Department last week. I bet you didn't know about that. There were a bunch of people who illegally forced their way into the Interior Department main building, And of course, I think there were people who died in this insurrection, and there definitely dozens of people committed felonies, and nobody seems to care. Anyway, he grilled Garland on the insurrection at the Interior Department last week and the two-tiered justice system in America, and I'm glad they said that. I call it a multi-tiered justice system, but at least two-tiered. We're heading in the right direction. But it's multi-tiered. It's more than just two tiers. So this is Representative Stubbe. Would you call both of these acts domestic terrorism? Garland, I'm not going to comment about particular matters. Stubbe, you're refusing to call left-wing groups who commit the same atrocities domestic terrorists. Well, first of all, this is why I call them country club Republicans. They're saying that January 6th was an atrocity. No, nobody was murdered on well, there was a woman murdered by the swamp. I'm thinking it was someone on the Mike Pence detail, some sort of Capitol or staff police or whatever. Anyway, so what was her name? Ashley something or other. Anyway, she was murdered. So there was one person, so-called insurrectionist, who was murdered. Nobody else was murdered on January 6th. Anyway, so you're refusing to call left-wing groups who commit the same atrocities domestic terrorists. Now, Representative Louis Gohmert from Texas, Republican, grilled A.G. Garland over the murder of Rosanne Boyland on January 6th. And this is a different murder that I'm just hearing about. Garland had no answer. Representative Gohmert grills A.G. Garland on brutal death of January 6th protester Rosanne Boyland, as reported by Gateway Pundit and J6 prisoner abuse. By the way, I don't even call them protesters. I call them patriots. The people who showed up on January 6th, they're patriots. They're trying to maintain a civilization. They're trying to maintain the rule of law, which we completely abandoned in the 4 years of Trump. Actually, we started abandoning it a long time ago, probably around 2009. Anyway, Representative Tom McClintock grilled A.G. Garland on the lawlessness at the open border and the highest number of illegal border crossers in the history of our country. Garland did not answer. Why isn't Attorney General Garland's DOJ prosecuting illegal immigrants that broke the law? Did you hear that? The Republicans don't even consider coming into the country breaking the law. First, you come into the country, which is a violation of the law, and then Republicans say, once you've committed another crime, a secondary crime, then you should be prosecuted. We're going to get into the country club Republican thing. Representative Steve Chabot, Ohio, pressed Garland on his targeting of American parents as domestic terrorists. Garland had no answer. Never in a million years did we dream that one day we'd see the Justice Department treat American parents as domestic terrorists. Representative Thomas Massie brilliantly questioned A.G. Merrick Garland on the FBI informants working the Trump crowd on January 5th and 6th. And that's another thing. We don't know that all the bad things that weren't organized by the FBI. We don't know that the swamp didn't set in motion a series of events themselves. They wanted January 6th to get out of hand. They wanted there to be lots of violence. They wanted lots of deaths. So we don't know what the FBI's role in January 6th was, but I'm guessing it was pretty horrible. Christopher Wray is another, just like Comey. So I just played, okay, they have a video at Gateway Pundit. I just played this video for A.G. Merrick Garland. He refused to comment on how many agents or assets of the federal government were present in the crowd on January 5th and 6th and how many entered. We already know there was one guy from Florida who's now being put in prison because the government wanted him to infiltrate the crowd and lead it down a very dark and violent path, and he didn't want to do that. So now they're going to put him in prison because he didn't want to help the government foment an insurrection on January 6th. And it wasn't Trump who wanted this. It was the FBI. It was the intelligence community. It was the people who run the government agencies. They wanted to make Trump look like an insurrectionist. Again, it's because that's who they are. That's who Christopher Wray is. That's who Comey is. That's who all these people are. So anyway, I just read you that article from the Gateway Pundit. It's a good website. You should check it out. I agree with them almost all the time. Sometimes, well, you can tell when I don't. It's when they're not using strong enough language. They said two-tiered justice system. I would say multi-tiered. There's more than two tiers. But at the minimum, there's two tiers. A tier for people who obey the law, they need to go to prison. And people who don't obey the law, they need to go free. That's the way that is the way the justice system works. If you are a career criminal but your political leanings are to the left, you need to always be free. If you are a career law abiding citizen who's a patriot but you're on the right, you need to go to prison. That's how, or more importantly, if you're someone who's an actual victim from a corrupt, systemic, from a government that is systemically communist. How about that? So, from a corrupt government, if you're someone who's a victim, you need to go to prison for saying you don't want to be a victim anymore. How dare you not want to be enslaved by the federal government? Or if you've got a state government like California, how dare you not want Newsom to be a dictator? Shame on you. How dare you want elected leaders not to act like despots, dictators, um, Stalinists. Anyway, and I gave you the 9 names at the beginning. The reason I used the word country club, because the Republic, we need a third party. It should be called the Populist Party. Donald Trump's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. Donald Trump's a populist. We need something called the Populist Party. The Republican Party is the country club Republican Party. Even I just read you a bunch of names, didn't I? About people who grilled. They destroy, according to the Gateway Pundit. They didn't destroy him. Garland could care less. Garland does not care about anything that the Republicans say. He can't be shamed. He can't modify his behavior. You can't change the Department of Justice. You have to get rid of Garland, and you have to get rid of his boss. Now, if the Republicans get control in 2022 of Congress, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and I don't know that they will, but let's say they do. You think they're going to impeach Joe Biden? He's done 100 things worthy of impeachment. And Merrick Garland, are they going to impeach? Are they going to impeach anyone in the executive branch? The answer is no. Country club Republicans only act like they're on the right when they're not in power. You put the Republicans in charge of Congress or the White House, with Trump being the exception here. But you put a Republican in the White House or you put a Republican in Congress and you give them the majority status, they don't do anything. During the 4 years Trump was in office, the Republicans had control. For the first 2 years, Republicans had control of the House of Representatives and the Senate. They did nothing to help Trump. For the 4 years Trump was in office, the Republicans actually worked to help the Democrats. They had helped the media, help every institution that was creating a false reality for the United States, a false reality that Trump was Hitler and that everything he did was illegal and blah, blah, blah. None of it was true. It's projection of who they are. But the country club Republicans are people who they just want it. They're like Nancy Pelosi. They want a nice, safe neighborhood for themselves, and they don't care if the rest of America is a third world hellhole. They don't care if America is a shithole country. It's like in 1970, if you bought a house in Acapulco and you lived up in the hills, well, Mexico's not a bad place. I'm living in the Acapulco hills, not that bad. But the people in the hills of Acapulco, they didn't care that down in the city things weren't that wonderful. Same thing with country club Republicans. They just want to be able to drive from their neighborhood, their nice neighborhood, over to the country club where they golf and have fun. And they don't care because they're like, well, we do need people to mow the lawn and be a nanny to my kids, and we need people to serve me at a restaurant. And those people shouldn't have nice things in life. I should. I live in the nice neighborhood. I should have nice things. Other people should. So Republicans, almost all of them are country club Republicans, which means they're Democrats. Now, that's the irony. Democrats, that's funny because at a country club, there's just as many Democrats as Republicans. A country club is 50-50. Half the members are Democrats and half are Republicans. And the ones who are Republicans, secretly they want to be Democrats. I don't know why, but they do. So that was today's video. If the Republicans think you're destroying someone on the left when you bring them up to Congress and you grill them, you ask them tough questions. They don't care. Merrick Garland, in fact, all you've done is Merrick Garland will just double down and become 1,000 times worse now. It's not going to become better. The Department of Injustice isn't going to become better because you can't embarrass them. You can't shame them. You can't use words will not do anything to the left. You have to get them out of power. And if they've committed crimes, you have to prosecute them. And the Republicans aren't willing to do that. That was today's video. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye-bye.